to simplify this for some people out there who may not be following us, they're now moving away from saying global warming, because that's been exposed as a fraud, to climate change and saying stabilizing our climate, as if we're not supposed to have seasons. I mean, if they had their way in 100 years, they'll have children cowering under their beds at night and saying, Mommy, the conspiracy theorist down the road, is saying that we've always had seasons, but the government says that seasons are unnatural and we've got to pay all these taxes to try to battle, changes in temperature.
I think that's a great point. I think the fact is that the change in temperature in any one region of the planet between the summer and the winter is something like 20 times what's going to happen even if we get a little bit of global warming over the next 100 years, which we may. But it's going to be so small and so insignificant that it's not going to do any harm to anyone. And that's really the simple bottom line. I'm sorry if that last answer sounded a little bit too complicated, but it's really quite simple. If you get a naturally occurring reduction in cloud cover, fewer clouds between the sun and the ground, more sunlight hits the ground, and the ground gets warmer, and it gets warmer naturally, and nothing whatever to do with CO2. It's really as simple as that. And we can do a simple calculation based on that to work out what the warming effect of CO2 over those 18 years from 1983 to 2001 could possibly have been. And the answer is there's virtually no room for it to have had any influence at all. And, of course, since the end of 2001, we've had rapid, significant global cooling anyway.
Lord Monckton, I'm going to skip this final break. We've only got 10 minutes left with you. Again, you're always extremely gracious to give us so much time. I know you're in demand globally, but that's another indicator of the good news, is that you were wanted, in front of crowds of tens of thousands and television and radio and TV 24 hours a day, more than you could ever do. And we're appreciative of your great stamina. That I can only liken to Ron Paul and the amount of stamina I've seen that he's had out there fighting many other forms and permutations of tyranny. But I want to take some final calls here, and I wasn't being patronizing saying, please simplify it. I just wanted to boil down for people just how elementary this is. I mean, I don't claim to be that smart, and this has been blaringly clear to me just because I understood history. I mean, I've read history about sometimes in Europe it'd be freezing for 100 years, and sometimes for 200 years it'd be super hot. And it's in the Chinese history, it's in all the histories. And we just know this is a fraud. We know that we had the Bronze Age because temperature went up by over 10 degrees, much warmer than the last, warming period we've seen in the last 50 years. And it's just so ridiculous. Let's talk to MD in Maine. You're on the air with Lord Christopher Monckton. His website is scienceandpublicpolicy.org. Go ahead.
Yes, Lord Monckton, welcome to America. And this is a question for you and Alex on a financial question. Specifically, we know that the pension funds in America are being targeted by the government as a way to back up the treasuries. But my specific question is 401ks and IRAs. Are those on the radar screen as well, and will those be targeted? And if so, how soon would that happen?
All right, MD, specifically, I'm now reminded Lord Monckton, going into break, tried to get into the financial ruination that we're seeing through the Obama collectivist takeover. And yes, it is in Bloomberg. They're looking at taking your pension funds. Lord Monckton.
Yes, I think you've got to realize that so bankrupt is America now at the federal level, and so wicked is the sheer scale on which the present administration has ramped up spending artificially in the short term, so as to make our children's children, and their children in turn pay for the self-indulgence of this, and I'm going to call it again what it is, a communist administration. That yes, you are going to find that every penny that you've got, which isn't hidden under the mattress, any penny that you've got that they can find, they're going to come after it. Your pensions are not going to be safe under this administration. Anyone who has had the providence and the thrift to save for his or her old age is going to find the sticky-fingered government coming in there and at first increasing the taxes on it and then arbitrarily confiscating it altogether and saying, as they did with health care, we in the federal government are going to provide your pensions, and in order to do that, we want you to hand over all your pension money. There is a real danger that an administration as wild and as fiscally irresponsible and as monetarily incompetent as this one, and as malevolent towards the American people as this one has shown itself repeatedly to be, will indeed come after your pension. Nothing and no one is safe. And my three magic words, I repeat again: vote them
And you were trying to talk about health care earlier. I do want to take a few more calls, but specifically, you're in England with the National Health Service. The VA runs health care here for veterans, the worst health care in the world when government has a hand in it. In 60 seconds, your breakdown on government-run health care.
Just don't go there is the short answer. It's been an enormous failure in Britain. It was supposed to be the envy of the world. Absolutely nobody has copied the way the British does it until now. And now here we have Obamacare. He didn't get away with the public option full-blown. What he's done instead is to defer to the huge companies and corporations that run healthcare and make sure that they are going to make vastly increased profits by forcing people into paying for healthcare via state-run exchanges. The whole mess is going to be a bureaucratic nightmare. It's going to cost a fortune. Healthcare standards will plummet, and already I know of several of your leading doctors who are simply going to up sticks and get out.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard intense veritas, the truth. This is global corporations, big healthcare, coming in and robbing you. Government keeps half of it. The corporations keep the other. They lower your standard of care. Well said, Lord Monckton. Let's talk to Brian in California. You're on the air.
Hello, Alex. I'm here with my sweet and lovable wife, who's a major contributor. I made an observation some time ago that the signing of the Federal Reserve Act was exactly, to the day, 99 years after the signing of the Treaty of Ghent. Now, if you take exactly 99 years to the day after the Federal Reserve Act, you land on the 2012 doomsday. My question,
all right, listen, Brian, that's another numerological subject I don't really get into, but we're taking questions for Lord Monckton. Thank you. George in Connecticut, you're on the air.
Lord Monckton, I want to ask you a question for Alex. I'm sure he doesn't want to bother to ask you, but he's been attacked by a number of people in the press, and some of these press reach England, and you know that the system in England would clip these birds' wings pretty quickly, especially when they're saying he's threatening violence because he's telling the truth. Can you give him some good advice on how...
Well, let me fill Lord Monckton in. They've had Newsweek, Time Magazine, even the London Guardian, actually, saying I'm calling for violence when I've never done anything like that. But they're also saying that about the Tea Parties. They're also saying that about Rick Perry. I mean, they're saying it about everybody. And now, I don't know if Lord Monckton saw this, but the AP reported 2 days ago, the Democrats have been caught with fake N-word signs, and they've been caught infiltrating Tea Parties trying to make us look bad.
That's right. This is a very classic communist technique. It was done by Hitler, who, of course, was a National Socialist, which is another kind of communism. It was done by the communists when they were taking over in Russia. It's an absolutely typical extreme left-wing technique. They try to discredit those whom they fear, knowing that they can rely upon the liberal tendencies of the mainstream media not to bother to ask the right questions. It's a very good question that your caller raises, and my advice is, of course, you should never advocate any kind of violence, nor, Alex, would you ever have done so.
Well, we've done the opposite, but, I mean, when especially George Soros, he's got like 8 different publications that every week just lie. I mean, I could sue them, but I don't have the time. What do you do when people...
I don't think it's ever worth suing these people. I think the answer is just to go on speaking the truth, speaking it gently, and it's rather like what Glenn Beck has been saying on his wonderful program on Fox News. He says the hammer of non-violence has to hit the anvil of truth, and that's the way he's been putting it. And I've met many Tea Partiers today. I went to a Liberty briefing just this morning and addressed it briefly. A wonderful crowd of people. Not one of them was advocating violence, except one infiltrator who was in there to find out what I was saying so that he could go away and report it to Green Central Casting, and they could look it up and try and pick holes in it later. Everybody else was entirely peaceable.
So you've gone through this too. I mean, you have them trying to set you up.
Oh, they're always doing that, but I pay no attention to it. And you just have to go on quietly. I'm just quietly getting on with my scientific research. I pop up from time to time and publish the results. I'm just about to publish a major paper on this business of the effect of clouds on climate, which shows perfectly well that CO2 has virtually nothing to do with anything. And that's the way I do it. We just quietly publish the science in the peer-reviewed journals, let people read it there, and make of it what they will. That's the way science is done, and I don't mind how many sticks and stones they try to throw, but words certainly won't hurt me. And the thing is, just be courageous, carry on speaking the truth. the truth in the end, as we are told in the Bible, will prevail.
Absolutely. Lord Monckton, we've only got about 45 seconds left. I appreciate your time. scienceandpublicpolicy.org. I know you say as soon as you're done defeating these people, you're going to write a book. We look forward to having you on to cover that, and just so much continues to happen. And again, 5 to 10 p.m. Eastern today in front of the Washington Monument. Lord Monckton and others will be there, so definitely we look forward to watching those videos online here from Austin and other areas of the planet from your eloquent speech. Thank you so much for your time.
File your tax return on time by the close of play today, and God bless America.
Take care. Lord Monckton, thank you.